Algeria International. It's time for the news.
Hello there and welcome to the English program of Radio Algeria International. First, the top stories of the news. Foreign Affairs Minister Ahmed Attaf has received the Secretary General of the Gas Exporting Countries Forum, Mohamed Hamel, who is on a work visit to Algeria. The Malaysian group Lion has proceeded to the implementation of industrial projects in Algeria, which amount to $6 billion and which will create 10,000 jobs. And concerning Niger, the leaders of the Economic Community of East African States, ECOWAS, will be meeting in 2 days' time in Abuja to discuss a worrying situation in Niger. These are the major developments, and now the news in detail from Radio Algeria International. This is Mohammed Barazwan reporting. First in our news file, Foreign Affairs Minister Ahmed Attaf has received the Secretary General of the Gas Exporting Countries Forum, Mohamed Hamel, who is on a working visit to Algeria. The meeting tackled the preparations of the 7th summit of the Forum's heads of state and government, due to be held in Algiers in March 2024. The two sides insisted on the importance of boosting cooperation and coordination between the Secretary General of the Forum and Algeria in its capacity as host country, and together the favorable conditions that guarantee the success of such an international event. The meeting insisted on pursuing efforts to achieve qualitative results that reflect the growing importance of the energy file at the international level, meet the aspirations of the member countries in terms of development, and contribute efficiently to dealing with the current international challenges on international energy security. In this line, Energy and Mines Minister Mohamed Al-Qab has received the Secretary General of the Gas Exporting Countries Forum, Mohamed Hamel, as part of preparations for the 7th summit of the Forum's heads of state and government, due to take place here in Algiers. Nasser Carr has more in this report.
The two officials discussed the current state of the world gas market and perspectives of its development in both the short and long terms, in addition to the mechanisms to be implemented to allow the member countries to map out and manage autonomously their gas resources. Energy Minister said the meeting, that was also attended by the officials of the Sonatrach Hydrocarbons Group, was an opportunity to examine the latest proceedings of the Gas Research Institute, headquartered in Algiers.
كان لنا جد لقاء مثمر حول كذلك مدى تقدم كذلك ترتيبات عقد هذا المؤتمر السابع للدول في الجزائر على مستوى الرؤساء والدول، وكذلك تطرقنا لمسألة كيفية تفعيل هذا المركز البحث الغاز الذي سوف يعطي دفعة كبيرة للصناعة الغازية بالنسبة للبلدان المصدرة للغاز المنتمية لهذا المؤتمر.
The Gas Research Institute is a scientific and technology cooperation framework of the member countries of the Gas Exporting Countries Forum and a collaboration body with similar institutes around the world. The Gas Exporting Countries Forum aims to implement a dialogue mechanism between gas producers and consumers and stabilize and secure the demand and offer of the world's markets of natural gas.
In other news, the Malaysia Group Lion has proceeded to the implementation of industrial projects in Algeria, which amount to $6 billion and which will create 10,000 jobs. The agreement to start the project's proceedings came in a meeting that brought together the CEO of the Lion Group and the Director General of the Algerian Agency of Investment Promotion, Omar Okash. Earlier, Energy and Mines Minister Mohamed Al-Qab received a delegation of the Malaysian Group Lion, led by its CEO, with whom he discussed investment opportunities in the field of mining resources. During the meeting, the two sides tackled investment opportunities between the Algerian energy sector and the Malaysian group line in terms of industrial exploitation of aluminium and iron ore. Now, in Algeria-Uganda cooperation, Trade Minister Taib Zitouni has examined with his Ugandan counterpart, Francis Mbwesa, in Kampala ways of increasing economic and trade cooperation between Algeria and Uganda. Asibikar again.
The meeting came on the eve of the second G25 Africa Coffee Summit, where Mr. Zitouni was entrusted by President Abdelmadjid Tebboune to partake in. During the meeting, Mr. Zitouni highlighted the importance of reinforcing and developing cooperation opportunities between the two countries as part of win-win strategic partnerships in line with the instructions of President of the Republic Abdelmadjid Tebboune. The Algerian minister said that Algeria can meet the needs of the Ugandan market in terms of construction materials, food supplies, pharmaceuticals, and other products. He also underlined Algeria's availability to import Ugandan products, notably coffee, red meat, and powder milk, given their competitive prices. Regarding the trade relations linking Algeria to Uganda, Mr. Zitouni said that bilateral relations are necessary to support economic cooperation and enhance sustainable development on the African continent. For his part, the Ugandan trade minister said the visit of his Algerian counterpart to Uganda reflects the close relations between the two countries, describing it as a major step to consolidate cooperation in several fields of endeavor. The meeting was also an opportunity to discuss the African Continental Free Trade Area and its perspectives.
Now, in the latest on Niger, the leaders of the Economic Community of East African States, ECOWAS, will be meeting in today's time in Abuja to discuss a worrying situation in Niger. Asibikar has more.
During a summit meeting held over 1 week ago in the Nigerian capital, the organization's leaders issued an ultimatum threatening to resort to force unless constitutional order was restored in Niger. The outlines of a possible military intervention have been defined by the Army Chiefs of Staff of the ECOWAS, which finally decided not to launch the operation, affirming that the option of a dialogue is still on the table. In this connection, the U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said his country backed the ECOWAS initiative, reiterating that diplomacy was certainly the best means of settling the issue. He deplored the situation prevailing in Niger, which he stressed offers nothing to the country, neither to its people. During a meeting held in Niamey with Niger's new Army Chief of Staff, U.S. Deputy Secretary of State Victoria Nuland proposed several options and offered her country's good office to help restore the constitutional order in the country. Earlier, both Italy and Germany spoke out in favor of a diplomatic solution in Niger. This came as the new authorities in Niger announced the designation of a new commander of the Presidential Guard and the appointment of former Finance Minister Ali Mohamed Lamine Zain as Prime Minister.
Now, in the Palestinian equation, the Palestinian government has firmly condemned the repeated acts of aggression carried out by the Israeli government in Jenin, in the occupied West Bank. It called on the international community to intervene rapidly to stop the horrendous Israeli crimes. Asibikar has more in this report.
2 days ago, 3 Palestinians were killed when the Israeli soldiers fired at their car south of Jenin. Addressing a cabinet meeting, Palestinian Prime Minister Mohammed Shtaya affirmed that the Israeli occupying authorities must be tired for their daily killings. In a similar move, the Palestinian Foreign Minister condemned the escalation of crimes perpetrated by the Israeli army against the Palestinians and warned that the lack of the international community's will of peace exacerbated the situation in the occupied Palestinian territories. According to Palestinian sources, over 200 Palestinians have been killed since the beginning of this year. Meanwhile, 25 Palestinians were killed during operations carried out today by the Israeli army in various parts of the West Bank.
In other news, South Africa will be hosting later this month the 15th summit meeting of the so-called BRICS group, bringing together Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. The South African Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, Nadel Pandor, said the meeting would take place on August 22nd in Sandton in the suburbs of Johannesburg. 67 African leaders from Africa and the Global South were invited by President Ramaphosa to attend a meeting placed under the theme The BRICS and the African Partnership for a Mutually Accelerated Growth, a Sustainable Development, and an Inclusive Multilateralism. The leaders of the BRICS will examine the opportunities offered to the group to achieve an inclusive reactivation of the world economy and achieve a sustainable development. In other news and concerning Libya, the Prime Minister of the Government of National Unity of Libya, Abdul Hamid Deiba, discussed with the Special Representative of the Secretary General of the United Nations in Libya, Abdullah Batili, the election file and the latest political developments in the country. The media office of the Libya Prime Minister stated Batili gave Deiba during a meeting a briefing on his recent tour with the Libyan parties at issue in a way that serves the direct access to the elections and the end of the transition stage. In this context, Deiba affirmed the government's keenness to move towards direct elections according to fair and impartial laws. You are still tuned to Radio Algeria International, and now I invite you to listen to the second part of our edition with two timely broadcasts on schedule. I wish you fun listening.
Hello and welcome to this new edition of your weekly program, The Health Magazine, devoted this time to World Breastfeeding Week, celebrated in the first week of August. Supported by WHO, UNICEF, and many ministries of health and civil society partners, World Breastfeeding Week is held in the first week of August every year. Breastfeeding is one of the most effective ways to ensure child health and survival, and yet currently fewer than half of infants under 6 months old are exclusively breastfed. In 2018, a World Health Assembly resolution endorsed World Breastfeeding Week as an important health promoting strategy with a different theme each year. It aims to promote the enabling environments that help women to breastfeed, including support in the community and the workplace, inadequate protections in government policies and laws, as well as sharing information on breastfeeding benefits and strategies. Breast milk provides optimal nutrition for babies. It has the right amount of nutrients, is easily digested, and is readily available. Several associations of pediatrics in the world recommend exclusive breastfeeding for 6 months and continuing even after solid foods are introduced until at least 1 year or until both mom and baby agree to call it quits. The World Health Organization, WHO, recommends breastfeeding until 2 years old or longer because the benefits continue that long. These agencies recommend starting as early as 1 hour after birth for the biggest benefits. These recommendations don't come lightly, and you'll see why. Here are 11 science-based benefits of breastfeeding that are amazing for you and for your little one. Breastfeeding benefits for baby. Breast milk provides ideal nutrition for babies. Most healthcare professionals recommend exclusive breastfeeding for at least 6 months or much longer. Breast milk contains everything baby needs for the first 6 months of life in all the right proportions. Its composition even changes according to the baby's changing needs, especially during the first month of life. During the first days after birth, the mom's breasts produce a thick and yellowish fluid called colostrum. It's high in protein, low in sugar, and loaded with beneficial compounds. It's truly a wonder food and not replaceable by formula. Colostrum is the ideal first milk and helps the newborn's immature digestive tract develop. After the first few days, the breasts start producing larger amounts of milk as the baby's stomach grows. About the only thing that may be lacking from your magical milk supply is vitamin D. Unless you have a very high intake, and most of the moms don't, your breast milk won't provide enough. Vitamin D drops are usually recommended. Breast milk contains important antibodies. Breast milk is loaded with antibodies that help your baby fight off viruses and bacteria, which is critical in those tender early months. This particularly applies to colostrum, the first milk. Colostrum provides high amounts of immunoglobulin, called IgA, as well as several other antibodies. When you're exposed to viruses or bacteria, you start producing antibodies that then go into the milk. It's called immunity for your baby. IgA protects the baby from getting sick by forming a protective layer in the baby's nose, throat, and digestive system. Formula does not provide antibody protection for babies. Numerous studies show that babies who are not breastfed are more vulnerable to health issues like pneumonia, diarrhea, and infection. Breastfeeding may reduce disease risk. Exclusive breastfeeding, which means that the infant receives only breast milk, is particularly beneficial. It may reduce your baby's risk for many illnesses and diseases, including middle ear infections, respiratory tract infections, colds and infections, gut infections, intestinal tissue damage, sudden infant death syndrome, allergic diseases, bowel diseases, diabetes, and childhood leukemia. Breast milk promotes babies' healthy weight. Breastfeeding promotes healthy weight gain and helps prevent childhood obesity. One study showed that breastfeeding for longer than 4 months had a significant reduction in the chances of baby development, overweight, and obesity. This may be due to the development of different gut bacteria. Breastfed babies have higher amounts of beneficial gut bacteria, which may affect fat storage. Babies fed breast milk also have more leptin in their systems than formula-fed babies. Leptin is a key hormone for regulating appetite and fat storage. Breastfed babies also self-regulate their milk intake. They're better at eating only until they've satisfied their hunger, which help them develop healthy eating patterns. Breastfeeding may make children smarter. Some studies suggest there may be a difference in brain development between breastfed and formula-fed babies. This difference may be due to the physical intimacy, touch, and eye contact associated with breastfeeding, as well as nutrient content. Studies indicate that breastfed babies have higher intelligence scores and are less likely to develop behavioral problems, have learning difficulties as they grow older. However, the most pronounced effects are seen in preterm babies who have a higher risk for developmental issues. The research clearly shows that breastfeeding has significant positive effects on babies' long-term brain development. Breastfeeding benefits for you. Breastfeeding may help you lose weight. You may have heard this often. While some women seem to gain weight during breastfeeding, others seem to effortlessly lose weight. Breastfeeding does burn more calories, and after 3 months of lactation, you'll likely experience an increase in fat burning compared to non-lactating mothers, though the difference isn't significant. Breastfeeding helps the uterus contract. During pregnancy, your uterus grows immensely, expanding from the size of a pear to fill in almost the entire space of your abdomen. After delivery, your uterus goes through a process called involution, which helps it to return to its previous size. Oxytocin, a hormone that increases throughout pregnancy, helps drive this process. Your body secretes high amounts of oxytocin during labor to help deliver the baby and reduce bleeding. It can also help you bond with your little baby. Oxytocin also increases during breastfeeding. It encourages uterine contractions and reduces bleeding, helping the uterus return to its previous size. Studies have also shown that mothers who breastfeed generally have less blood loss after delivery and faster involution of the uterus. Mothers who breastfeed have a lower risk of depression. Postpartum depression is a type of depression that can develop shortly after childbirth. Women who breastfeed seem less likely to develop postpartum depression compared to mothers who wean early or do not breastfeed, according to a 2012 study. However, those who experience postpartum depression early after delivery are also more likely to have trouble breastfeeding and do so for a shorter duration. If you have any symptom of PPD, tell your doctor as soon as possible. Breastfeeding reduces your disease risk. Breastfeeding seems to provide you with long-term protection against cancer and several other diseases. The total time a woman spends breastfeeding is linked with a reduced risk for breast and ovarian cancer. Women who breastfeed have a lower risk for high blood pressure, arthritis, high blood fats, heart diseases, and type 2 diabetes. Breastfeeding saves time and money. To top the list, breastfeeding is mostly free, barring expenses for any lactation consulting and breast pumps. By choosing to breastfeed, you won't have to spend money on formula, calculate how much your baby needs to drink daily, spend time cleaning and sterilizing bottles, mix and warm up bottles in the middle of the night or the day, figure out ways to warm up bottles while on the go. Breast milk is always at the right temperature and ready to drink. So what are the takeaways? The benefits of breastfeeding are so numerous that most health agencies recommend it for everyone for as long as possible, barring medical problems that prevent it. Breast milk contains antibodies and other elements that protect your baby from illness and chronic diseases. It's the best start you can give if you're able. Plus, we can discount the big benefits to you for health reasons and convenience. No matter what choice you make, your healthcare team can guide you to the right methods and choices. And with this, we come to the end of this week's edition of your program, The Health Magazine. Don't forget to join us next week with a new topic and your recommendations for your well-being and the well-being of your family and friends. Goodbye.
جداك الغيث إذا الغيث هما يا زمان الوصل بالأندلس.
Constantine was originally created by the Phoenicians. Sirta, which means in Phoenician language, city carved into the rock. The city was taken over by Numidia, the country of the Berber people, after the defeat of the Phoenicians. The city later served as the base for Roman generals in their wars. Later, Julius Caesar gave special rights to the citizens of Sirta, now known as Constantine or Qsantina in Arabic. It was named after Emperor Constantine the Great. It was later conquered by the Arabs in the 7th century, receiving the name of Qsantina.
أو خمسة المختلس
In 1826, the last Bey, Ahmed Bey bin Muhammad Sharif, became the head or governor of Constantine. He led a fierce resistance against French forces. In World War II, during the campaign in North Africa between 1942 and 1943, Constantine and the nearby cities like Sétif were used by the Allied forces as operational bases. Constantine is a city of suspended bridges that inspired Malouf singers with wonderful melodies. The word Malouf comes from the Arabic word Ma'louf, which means accustomed to the tradition, or more accurately, true tradition. a classical Algerian heiress of Arabic music based on a system of 24 nubats, which are the theoretical rules and unchanged since the late 9th century. These nubats were maintained through oral tradition. This music is implanted in the culture of many large cities of the Maghrebian regions as Fez, Tlemcen, Algiers, Constantine, Tunis, and Annaba. Malouf is played by small orchestras consisting of violins, drums, sitars, and flutes. Malouf is based on qasida, a kind of classical Arabic poetry, and comes in many forms, including the post-classical muwashaha, which abandons many of qasida's rules, and zajjal, a modern genre with unique format. Malouf is still performed in public, especially at weddings and circumcision ceremonies, though recordings are relatively rare. One of the pillars of Malouf is Al-Hajj Muhammad Tahir Al-Farghani, and whose real name Raghani, son of Sheikh Hammu, is a famous singer, musician, and composer. He is also considered one of the masters of Malouf. His singing is often described as an exquisite harmony. The power of his voice embodies a degree of quality interpretation that charms many music lovers. He remains one of the few singers to interpret his compositions for 4 octaves. His father, who came from a family of music lovers, was already a virtuoso in another genre. At the age of 18, he devoted himself entirely to music. In 1951, he pointed to a musical contest. He won first prize. Winning on several occasions and on both national and international level, it remains one of the major references. His acute sense of melody, his unparalleled genius in improvisation, the richness of his style, his skills in handling the violin held upright, and his daring to go beyond its limits. For him, it is the best reward for such a long career. Furthermore, Al-Hajj Farghani had the merit to bring the Malouf in his heart, beyond national borders, with a lot of talent, confidence, and wisdom. His famous songs include Billah Ya Hamani, Nubasika, Basharaf Naik. Constantine. Constantine, the beautiful city, where I grew up, Constantine. The velvet gondolas, the bays, the suspended bridges. History speaks to you, Constantine. Let me see Suiqa. I love her whatever you could say. Oh, Constantine. I mean the Souq al-Asr and Qasba. It is good to be back to Constantine. Sidi Rashid I return to see. One who pays you a visit is filled with joy. Oh, Constantine. Let me see Zohra. I love her whatever you could say, Constantine.
في كل ثانية